Buongiorno. Mi piacerebbe molto intuino alla Italian Space Week stasera. I will continue in English, don't worry, for the ones who are not Italians. I first would like to talk a little bit about space and why space matters. Then I will share a little bit about our journey. We've been very lucky with the exploration company. Indeed, we are 4 years old and we are the fastest growing space startup in Europe, so I'd like to share a little bit about how we've been able to scale. And last but not least, I'd like to end on a positive note. What are the opportunities that we have here in Europe to build global leaders with European roots? So why does space matter? 3 main reasons. Number one, it's a huge market. And perhaps you don't know, but in the next 5 years, the space market is going to reach approximately 1.5 trillion, which is the size of the aeronautic and also flying market, so aviation market. So it's big, it's big. And the main driver of this huge market is telecommunication. I believe there will be in the next 3 to 4 years a tipping point when the cost of refurbishing and improving the telecommunication infrastructure in space will become cheaper than the cost of refurbishing and improving the telecommunication infrastructure on Earth. And you can imagine that when this tipping point is reached, space communication-based infrastructure is going to serve the majority of the communication needs on Earth. And that's one of the reasons why the valuation of SpaceX is so high right now. So, big market. Number two, space is also very, very, very useful for our basic needs. And basic needs mean climate. We cannot understand what is happening on Earth without space imagery. And if we don't understand, we don't know how to improve the situation with climate. It's also much more precise. I'll give you a few examples. If you're in agriculture in India and you want to optimize the use of fertilizers, the use of water, you want to use as much as possible space imagery. And to give a precise example, one startup in India, Satsur, is providing now with an app millions of farmers so that they can optimize the use of water fertilizers. Another example, you're in Africa and you want to sell yogurts to the next market. It's very important for you to understand approximately how many people will be there so that you package correctly how many yogurts you're going to take with you, because sometimes, let's say, the transportation chain with fridge are not optimal. And for that, again, space imagery is going to give you roughly, approximately, how much yogurt you're going to bring to the next market, and it's going to enable you basically to optimize your fleet of trucks so that you can deliver to the right market the right number of yogurts. So not only you serve better your client, but also you delete, you destroy, waste less resources, plus you optimize your trajects, right? So it's better also for the climate. So this is just a few examples how space is useful in, I would say, the daily life. Don't speaking about the positioning, of course, but it's also very, very critical for defense. We need space imagery to understand what is happening right now in Russia, for example. And believe it or not, but right now in Europe, we have no sovereign capacity to understand what is happening every, let's say, 5 to 10 minutes in Russia. We are completely dependent on American imagery. For communication, when you are in a fighter jet, for example, and you need to communicate, all this communication must be fully secured, encrypted, and of course you're using space. And last but not least, positioning. This is very important for drones. More than the majority of the American Air Force right now is drones. So if a country hacks GPS, for example, it means that the majority of the Air Force potentially, is grounded. And it has happened already that some planes couldn't actually land at the right place because they couldn't get any more the GPS signals and they couldn't position themselves anymore. So this is real, and actually China and Russia are much better than we are, and also that, to my knowledge, the Americans are regarding the spoofing, right? So regarding basically jamming signals and diverting planes. So space is absolutely critical for defense. We've all seen that with the start of the war in Ukraine. And we are quite weak right now in Europe regarding this space-based infrastructure. And last but not least, the third reason why space is so important, because it speaks to us as human. It's inspiration. Like why do you go to theater? Why do you go to concerts? Why do you watch sports? Or do you play sports? It's because we are humans. And when we look at space, it speaks to our spiritual mind. It speaks to our scientific minds, because we want to understand, for example, the science of universe. We want to understand the laws of gravitation of the planet, the Kepler laws, for example. It speaks to our engineering mind, because we want to build stuff to go there. And it speaks also to our collaborative mind, because anything we build in space, can be a satellite, can be a rocket, can be a spaceship, as we are building at the Exploration Company. Everything we build for space is very, very difficult, and it's a result of a combination of talent. It's like building a human body, basically. And it means everyone in the human chain building a spacecraft has a huge responsibility. One blue collar not using the right screw, and for example changing the material of the screw, even if this is exactly the same size, may be the cause for a complete explosion of the spacecraft. So in the way we build a space vehicle is exactly the way we would build a human body, for example. We are each of us highly dependent. Small mistake made by one person can have huge consequences. And it creates a wonderful mindset of engineers working together. So these are the three reasons why space is very important. Huge market, huge opportunity. We need to be able to grasp part of this market as Europeans. It's critical for optimizing our activities on Earth, for climate change, but also critical for defense. And it's just part of who we are. And because it's part of who we are, this is why we named the Exploration Company the Exploration Company, right? Because this is part of who we are. We are, as humans, we are explorers. Since the very, very beginning of humanity, we've been exploring. We've been exploring the Earth, we've been exploring through seas, we've been exploring through airs, and now comes the time when we are exploring through space. This is the century when that's going to happen, and this is very, very exciting, and I want us, Europeans, of course, to be part of this huge exploration. So, a little bit about the Exploration Company now. We are 4 years old. We are about 400 people. We are based in, we started being based in Germany and France, so I started a company almost the same day between Germany and France, and because I'm French, decided to have the headquarters in Germany. We opened in Italy 1.5 years ago, and we've been opening also in the US, Los Angeles and Houston, and we have opened this year in the UAE, in Dubai. What are we doing? We are building space vehicles. And we start, the first vehicle is actually a spaceship, a space capsule, the first ever space capsule being built in Europe, that in 2028 is going to go to the space station up there, is going to dock, so to be, attached to the space station to bring cargo and then to fly back. And then we're going to reuse step by step these vehicles. We need a bit more time to carry humans because it's a huge endeavor, but we will get there. And of course, after the capsule comes the rocket, and after rockets comes the lunar lander. And we build these space vehicles in a very, very special manner. I've been inspired by the way the European founders, the European fathers, they built Europe. Because let's believe it or not, we are a unique fact in history. We've been fighting, we've been in wars for centuries. And after the Second World War, some people said, let's make sure we don't do that again. And they decided to share critical technologies between countries, coal and steel, basically the raw material to make weapons. And this is how the European Union started. And this is at the core of the European Union. And this mission, basically, of sharing critical technologies so that we can live in peace and we can collaborate more, this is the mission of the Exploration Company, inspired by the European history. So our mission is to build space vehicles across nations to foster collaboration and peace in space. Because space is part of our future as humans, and we have a choice. We can build this future in a confrontational manner, or we can build this future in a collaborative manner. And this is this last path, collaborative manner, peaceful manner, that we select. And of course, we're not naive, right? We know that space is already the battleground. But guess what? The technologies we are developing with the space capsule not only are a way to collaborate, and as a matter of fact, we are building this space capsule between France, Germany, Italy, and the US. Right now, as we speak, we are the first ever European company having signed a Space Act agreement with NASA. We will be certified both by NASA and the European Space Agency. And I've already sent 2 capsules to space. So this is very real. This collaboration I'm talking about is very, very real. And for the lunar lander, as another example, we are building our lunar lander together with the UAE. And if everything goes well, by the end of the decade, we will bring for the first time the European continent and the Arabic continent together to the lunar surface. So that collaboration is real. At the same time, while developing these technologies, while enabling collaborations, we are protecting the European democracies thanks to our technologies. I'll take 2 examples. A space capsule must re-enter. Okay, if you're carrying humans up there, you need to bring these people back, as simple as that. And when you re-enter, it's a little bit warm. It's right kind of 2,000 degrees, so you don't want to burn, right? And because you don't want to burn, we are producing what is called thermal protection to make sure that the capsule doesn't burn. So far, Europe had only one source of thermal protection for hypersonic reentries, which, as you can imagine, is very important for hypersonic airplanes and hypersonic missiles. Since 1 month, Europe has a second source of hypersonic thermal protection. Our factory, one of our factories, actually based in Bordeaux, which has industrialized the German technology. And this is a critical defense technology that we are building for a space capsule, which is peaceful. At the same time, we will be selling this thermal protection to companies which are producing hypersonic missiles, defending Europe and our citizens. Another example, if we go to a station, there is one thing we must never do. We must never collide with the space station, okay? Because imagine if we collide with the space station, we will create what is called catastrophic hazard. Basically, we are putting the life of the astronauts in danger, if not more. So to make sure we never collide with a station, we are what is called 3 failure tolerance. I'm not going to enter into the details, but our design is very, very safe, and this is what NASA is going to certify, that never, ever, whatever happens, will never collide with the space station. Now, let's imagine you have a satellite up there, and this is the reality. This is no imagination. This is already happening as we speak. Spy satellite, hacking satellite, spoofing satellite, whatsoever. The first thing you want to understand is, what is this satellite doing exactly? Who could have built this satellite? So you want to fly around. And then if you want to do something, if you want to attack the satellite, if you want or to defend yourself or to destroy a threat for your infrastructure, you have the same problem. You must never collide with the satellite. So you see another example where our critical technology we are developing to go to space station is actually already being used to perform military missions. So these were some examples about basically where we are and how we serve the European landscape. I'd like to speak a little bit about the lessons learned on the journey, and then I will conclude. I am out of time, right? So perhaps 3 main lessons learned and 3 assets for Europe. Lessons learned number 1, people. Everything we do is because we have great people. And we've been spending huge amount of time recruiting the right talent, and this is still like probably 35% of my time as a CEO to make sure we have the right people inside the company. Number 2, and this is even more as important as the people, is the mission. You've heard our mission is to build space vehicles across nations to foster collaboration and peace companies are here to transform the world for the better, and we can raise a huge amount of money having a real mission which is beneficial to the world. And this is how we attract the best talent, and this is how we motivate people when hard time comes. Because when hard time comes, people need to understand why they are moving their ass, why they are working like crazy. And this why is the mission. This is how we attract and keep the best people. And last but not least, for very deep tech startups as we are, building a space capsule costs $500 million, roughly speaking. We started with very, very small step, and as soon as possible, we found the right balance between government contract and private contract. We signed 800 million euro of contract with private American space stations who want more competition, who do not want to be dependent only from SpaceX. At the same time, we convinced the European government to create a space capsule program. For the first time, it was an open competition between corporations like Airbus, Thales, OHB, and small startups like us. And we won, ranked #1, and this gave a lot of trust to the investors because they could see that in case of delays, which sometimes happens in space, in case of overruns of cost, we would be backed by the governments because the infrastructure is developing is the critical and strategic infrastructures also for Europe. So with this, I will conclude on a note of hope. Building a company in Europe is not always easy because we have to speak to several governments. We have to create a unifying dream for all these governments. But it's worth it. We have a huge cost advantage because one aerospace engineer in Europe is costing 1/3 of an American aerospace engineer. We have a huge international advantage. We've been partnering with UAE. I hope we'll partner tomorrow with India and with Australia. And we can do that in a much easier manner than if we would be Americans. And we have this experience of collaboration that we can bring to the world. Thank you very much for your attention.